If I were to cover up that Hyundai badge on the hood, I have a feeling that most viewers wouldn't be able to guess what it is. As you already could tell from the title, it's the Hyundai Elantra Hybrid. And it's quite the looker, right? As it turns out, beauty isn't only skin deep with this compact sedan. But before we get into that, do us a favor, hit those like and subscribe buttons below to get all of our latest reviews. This 7th generation Hyundai Elantra debuted in 2021. And boy, this model has come a long way. It wasn't until the 5th generation that debuted in 2011 that it seemed that Hyundai even cared about how the Elantra looked. Before then, they were either generic or downright awkward looking. This, I really like what's going on here. There's a lot of busyness and a lot of intersections, lots of creases, but they all work really well together. It's sporty, it's aggressive, but it's also kind of refined and just kind of stands out from other compact sedans out there. One thing I really like is how these headlights are integrated into the grille, almost as though they're hidden, like you expect some pop-up headlights right here. And that just speaks to my nostalgia. Down the side, things get even more exciting with these really deep, sharp, origami-like creases in the bodywork. Altogether, just really says that this is something different from a Corolla or a Civic, but not all great. We did notice that there's a rather large gap in the body here between the hood and the fender, and it's also inconsistent with the other gaps, so it's almost like they took a page out of the Tesla playbook. Overall, I think it's a great looking car, and I really like being seen in it. The sharpness continues around the back with this really aggressively indented trunk lid here, although there is another continuing theme of that large gap between that and the bumper. Now, right here we have a little hybrid badge, and really that's the only thing that's signifying that this is different from the standard Elantra. It's pretty obvious that I think the Elantra is one of the more attractive compact sedans in its class, but what do you think? Do you agree with my assessment? Let us know in the comments below. This Elantra is powered by a 1.6-liter four-cylinder that's made into a hybrid system. Combined, they produce 139 horsepower. The standard Elantra makes 147 horsepower, but a little bit less torque, so it's sort of a draw power-wise. A 6-speed dual-clutch automatic transmission is standard, as is front-wheel drive. Sadly, there is no all-wheel drive option. That should get this hybrid to 60 miles an hour between 8 and 9 seconds, which is not very quick by today's standards. Now, if you want performance, the Elantra N with 201 horsepower, an available manual transmission, and a handbrake should do the trick. I got to take that for a spin recently and came away duly impressed. But how will this super efficient hybrid do in its place? Let's find out, shall we? Now, as I said at the beginning, you're not going to be winning any drag races in this Elantra Hybrid. Now, that said, it kind of gets up to speed okay. Now, I do have to floor it on some uphill on-ramps and to pass slower traffic, but it's not nearly as bad as those numbers suggest. Acceleration is kind of a mixed bag, though. In a lot of ways, this Elantra feels like one of those older first-generation hybrids in that I can feel that handoff between the electric motors and the gas engine and then back and forth. It's not all the time, but it happens pretty often where I'll feel a really definite transition and sometimes some awkward lurches too. It's not something I expected from this, and especially not from Hyundai, because they've been doing their hybrids pretty well lately. On the plus side, there's no such transition felt when you're braking. You won't feel any difference between brake regeneration and the physical pads, and that's a good thing. And when it comes to handling, well, it's not a sports car, but it acquits itself pretty well on a twisty road like this. There is quite a bit of road noise though, but this road is fairly coarse with its asphalt. Ride quality is comfortable rather than sporty. That means it soaks up the bumps just fine. But it's also not too soft that it gets wallowy on the highway. So overall, I think it's tuned fairly well. This also comes packed with all the safety features you expect, and in this top trim, adaptive cruise control is included. For the most part, everything works exactly as it should, and I haven't had any weird false alarms or anything like that. The IIHS named this a top safety pick, which is their second highest honor. So it gives you a lot of assurance overall. The interior of this Elantra Hybrid is just as modern as the exterior. We have this beautiful kind of single pane that encloses both the instrument panel and the infotainment touchscreen. Now there is something weird over here, this weird circular thing, and it's been there a while with other Hyundais, and quite honestly, no one knows what it is. The designers simply say, it's just a flourish. It's just a decoration. Honestly, I feel like they're missing an opportunity to put something there. I don't know what it would be. Maybe just a pocket for storage. But just having something like that over there just kind of weird and draws my eye over it way too much. Otherwise, I really like the way this cockpit feels. It wraps around me, especially with this center grab handle for the passenger. Now, the problem is, there's a lot of hard plastic in here, but to its credit, it looks convincing, right up until you touch it. Here in this top limited trim, we get such niceties as this big sunroof, synthetic leather upholstery, ventilated seats, split folding rear seats, a Bose premium audio system, and adaptive cruise control. As far as the infotainment system is concerned, it's pretty easy to use, and really, there wasn't any guesswork involved. There is one nitpick I have, and it's a pretty common theme here, and they do have a wireless charging pad, but not wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So if you want to use those, you're still going to have to use a cable. When it comes to personal storage, well, it's a little hit and miss. You get these really big cup holders right here in the middle, as well as this pretty deep, but not terribly long center armrest bin. The door pockets, however, are really limited. Not only are they narrow, but they're kind of short, so you can't really get any even moderately sized bottles in there. Here in the back seat, I have just enough headroom. Now, I'm 5'10", sitting behind the driver's seat, which is set for me, but I do have plenty of legroom and knee room. One thing I like back here is their use of this gray linen that they used in the front on the door panels. It's also here in the door panels, but it just kind of warms things up, almost like something you expect from Volvo or Polestar. Amenities are fairly light back here. There isn't a separate climate control or vents, but you do have 2 USB-C ports. Here in the center, you have an armrest and 2 small cup holders. Behind the rear seats, you have 14.2 cubic feet of storage, which is about average for the class. It is important to note, though, those folding rear seat backs are only available on the top limited trim. As an added bonus, though, you do get these remote seat back releases. The Elantra Hybrid starts just under $27,000 for the base model, while this top-of-the-line Limited starts right around $31,000. And were it not for this $500 red-hot paint, there really aren't a lot of options to add. The entry-level blue trim is the most efficient of the lineup, and it's able to achieve 54 mpg according to the EPA. Other Elantra hybrids in the lineup are rated at 50 mpg, and in my experience, it's pretty easy to achieve. The standard Elantra gets as high as 36 mpg and as low as 31 mpg. And the non-hybrid Limited has a starting price of just under $28,000. Those are all great numbers, but you also have to realize you're getting one of the best warranties in the business that covers you for 10 years and 100,000 miles. With all of those figures in mind, it'll take you about 6 years to break even with the non-hybrid Elantra, and that'll save you about $500 annually. To put it into context, the Honda Civic Hybrid gets 49 mpg combined, the Corolla Hybrid 47 mpg, and the Prius 57 mpg. Now, if you wanted to step up, the Sonata Hybrid, that's rated at 47 mpg, which also isn't so bad. But that begs the question, what would you go with? Personally, the looks are kind of enough to get me into the Elantra Hybrid. But what would you do? Let us know in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons below, and we'll see you in the next review.